Recognise this?
Yeah, that's Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
And the cast of Glee.
Yeah, there's a few more songs with the same chords. Check it out. My life.
Does any touring highlights come to mind?
We were living in LA for 6 months back in 2011, and we played this huge gig. It was just a charity gig, but it was just enormous because of the bill it was on. Ray Romano, Steve-O from Jackass, Patton Oswalt, who I got to meet backstage, and when I got back there, tapped on his dressing room just so I could get a photo with him. I walked in the door, he'd looked us up because he knew we were on the same bill, and he was like, hey, I don't know those guys, and he looked up a song that we had, and he just kind of raved about it, and he was like, I really love the clip, and I'm like, you are the nicest man. And then I got a photo with him, and he did a joke photo for me where he's looking at his phone while I'm like, it's Patton Oswalt! That's a highlight for me.
I don't know if you can see, but that's a T-shirt that a fan drew for us in Germany.
So someone actually just drew that apropos of nothing.
Yeah, well, she drew it, and she's a bit of a serial commenter on our Facebook page and whatever. So she drew it and then said, "Oh, what sizes are you guys? I'll bring on the T-shirt." And then we just kind of forgot about it, and a few weeks later, she shows up in Frankfurt with these T-shirts for us.
When did you decide to start touring?
We were always kind of set up as a live act. Not a lot, but more and more these days, people are kind of, reviews will go, oh, they've turned their online success into a live show. And we're like, no, we were always a live act. I guess kind of touring is the, I want to say dream / nightmare for a group. And we kind of stuffed around for a year, got the Moosehead Award from Melbourne Comedy Festival, and then went, oh, we should, now, because you know how the Moosehead works, you get it, and then you have to, it's like a grant.
Yeah.
We've got to write the show now that we've committed to it. Did the show in Melbourne and then got offered a venue in Edinburgh as part of that, but it was like, you have to decide, now, basically, and we're like, this is in the end of our first Melbourne Comedy Festival as the band, and we're just like, oh, yeah, I guess. We always want to go to Edinburgh, but, the worst time, you always have to make those decisions in the middle of one festival. You have to decide, the application for the next one's due in.
Did you find that Edinburgh and being a musical act was a point of distinction for you guys?
Yes and no. I'd say it was more of a distinction in Australia, even though we've got quite a good tradition of the three-piece kind of musical acts, Tripod and the Doug Anthony All-Stars and Garden. We kind of follow in their footsteps, but in Edinburgh's just so enormous that whatever there is, there's 20 of them.
Steel string guitar, chimes, synthetic percussion.
On the final night of our first Edinburgh Fringe, a producer from the BBC came and saw our show, who's now a good mate of mine.
Yep.
He's a magician as well. His name's Chris Cox, and he bought our CD, took it back to BBC, and a few months later got it played on BBC Radio 1, on the early mornings show or overnight or something, and we woke up to 100 new MySpace friend requests.
Amazing.
So that's how old that tells you how long ago it was. But obviously that wouldn't necessarily have happened that way if we were just doing stand-up or if we were, a sketch group.
In your professional opinion, what do you think that musical comedians can do that conventional comedians can't do?
So what I think a musical group can do that maybe a stand-up can't do is that obviously the first one is repetition of material. So
yeah.
You'll find that people will want to see the hits or those those songs that they might have seen online or once before. That's what we found on tour as well. We tend to play a lot more older material on tour, whereas when we go to a festival, if we're having repeat audiences come back, they'll want to see a new show. But even then, even when we took a whole new show to Edinburgh in 2012. We had people going to us, was this and this and this, and we kind of made 4 chords a little bit different and mucked around at the start and had a bit, we had these Nerf guns for part of another song that we then started shooting Benny with in the start, and then people stop ruining 4 chords. I only get to see it once a year. And we're like, oh, okay, people really still want to dig it, they still want to see it.
Yeah.
So that's the big one, when you go see a comedian, an Arch Barker or someone like that, you want to just see new material, you want to hear new jokes in their own style, I guess. Whereas we find that a lot of people want to see the same songs.
It's just a way of telling a joke a different way. With a song, especially, people will give you more time to get to a punchline because they're listening to something that they can enjoy the sound of.
Have you ever had to within the group or outside of the group? Have you ever had to contend with negative stereotypes of musical comedy? Some people just go, oh, automatic applause machine, fantastic.
The only people who do that are comedians.
Yeah,
There's
interesting.
No audience member sits in an audience thinking about that side of it, you know?
Very
It's only when you've had the experience on stage. So for anyone who says that, you're obviously a hack and professionally jealous, and get over yourself, because we're all just trying to have a bit of fun. Because if you're in this for the money, then, well, is that why you started? Because you should have gone into finance.